This episode of WDW Today is being sponsored by All-Star Vacation Homes. And if you're playing trip to Walt Disney World and you want a lot of space and a lot of great amenities, but you don't want to pay a lot for them, All-Star Vacation Homes is the perfect choice for you. Check them out online at www.allstarvacationhomes.com.
Bringing the world to your world, this is Walt Disney World Today. Here are Mike Scopa, Len Testa, Mike Newell, and your host, Matt Hochberg.
It's Friday, April 22nd, 2011, and this is episode 867 of WDW Today. I'm Matt Hochberg of StudioCentral.com. Joining me on today's show is Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. And Mike, this Sunday, in fact, is our next live show. Are you excited?
As live shows go, yeah, I love live shows. They're like my favorite.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun to do, so I'm really looking forward to it. And of course, if you're around, not you, Mike, you're supposed to be around, but if anyone else is around,
man,
come check us out on Sunday night, 8 o'clock. Also joining us on today's show is Mike Scopa, a senior feature writer and blogger for alleears.net. Welcome, Mike.
So first, look to the sea.
Oh, man, I know this.
The seas?
The seas? Nope, not the A's, the B's, or the C's.
No, I think he means the seas, like the living seas.
The film.
Nope. Oh, the film. Nope.
First, look to the seas. Norway.
Right. Maelstrom. Yep.
There we go. I knew it was somewhere in that. It may be Friday, but you know what? We're going to take an opportunity here to catch up a little bit on our listener questions. So we're going to be answering your listener questions on today's show today. So let's power through some questions here. And our first email is from Angela from Sacramento, California. My husband and I are going to Walt Disney World in December and want to go to Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party, but not sure if we should go on a Sunday night or the night before we leave, Thursday night. We have an ADR at Tony's Town Square for I think it's a Sunday night. And on Thursday, we have a dinner. We have an ADR at Tony's for... Oh, they have it for both. Okay. So they made it an ADR for both days. Let me know which you think would be the best option. So Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. Mike Scopa, should she go on Sunday or Thursday?
Good question, because one Mouse Fest I went to both. And I believe that the Sunday night crowd was a little bit lighter. And the reason for that is that Sunday is a traveling day for most guests. And for many of them, Sunday is a day that they most likely are not going to be populating the parks. I think there's probably maybe a 15 to 20% drop off in the crowd on Sunday nights than it is on Thursday nights. So my suggestion is Sunday night. Now, Matt, you said that that's the night before they leave?
No, Thursday is the night before they leave.
Oh, so it's Sunday or Thursday. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to not go on the night before you leave, because you may want to stay till 12, 12:30, and depending upon what time your flight is, you're going to be really pushing it in the morning. So I'm saying Sunday night.
Okay. I would stand by it. Makes sense. Next email is from Gerald in Palmyra, Pennsylvania. Is it perfectly within the rules of Disney to use the resort pool on the day of your checkout, but after you've already checked out of your room? I was considering staying at multiple Disney resorts on my next trip and planned on swimming during the time between checkout and check-in.
I mean, if they let you use the room key till midnight after of the day you check in, I can't see why you can't use the rest of the resort amenities.
Yeah, absolutely. I would think it'd be fine with it.
Yep.
So yeah, absolutely, go for it. Next email's from Don Calling.
Don calling on?
Donnie!
Don from Algonquin, Illinois. Greetings to all in attendance. I thought it best to pass along a warning. Apparently, Chef Cat Cora's restaurant Cuisina is going through a rough patch. Family recently dined there and had a disappointing saganaki, which they apparently can't light at the table, and which was gritty, yes, gritty. And unappetizing main courses, they complained. The host, I think, first said, this isn't supposed to be like this, about the saganaki, and later of the main course, yes, it's not very good, is it? I had high hopes for this restaurant, and it was the only one on our tour that I already tried by myself. Spare others the embarrassment and tell them to eat somewhere else. That's interesting. Yeah, Mike, I was just about to say, aren't you a fan of it?
Yeah, I was there last. I've eaten there several times. I actually got to meet Kat Cora, and I think that it's much better than what was the name of the
Spoodles.
restaurant before it was much better than Spoodles had turned into. I think that, like all restaurants, there may be some things on the menu that may not hit you as well as others. So when you find something good, I think you stick with it. And that could be a case where that was just something that just wasn't right for the person who sent that email in, or something else. But I think it's probably one of the top 5 restaurants on the property.
Wow, okay, that's a really strong opinion. I was going to say it's good, not great. I don't know. I mean, I like cuisine, actually. I've dined there a couple times, and I do remember that the first time wasn't as good as the times I've gone since then. But like you said, Mike, it's about finding items that you like. The first time I ordered the whole fish, which I really didn't enjoy. But after that, I had ordered some different items on the menu, and I really felt that the other items were much better. And the other thing to keep in mind, obviously, is that it's a new restaurant, and they have been tweaking the menu a little bit. But I would definitely give it another try. I do think it's one of the better restaurants out there. So I don't think it's necessarily one that I would put on the skip it list necessarily. I do like it. Newell, have you had a chance to eat at Cuisina's yet?
Nah, not yet.
Okay. Next email is from Dan. Just a short note to pass along my thanks to the group for your assistance in our recent Disney vacation back in June. The trip was a huge success, hit all the key attractions, short to no waits and no meltdowns. This success was due in no small part to the tips and information I gleaned from the podcasts, live shows, and the unofficial guide, including touring plans. I'm actually suffering from Disney planning withdrawal and find myself still listening to the podcast. Thanks for all your hard work. I couldn't have planned this trip without your help. Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Next email is from Matt from Springfield, Illinois, Twain18, and on the website. Hoorah! I may be getting a chance to go to Walt Disney World for a conference in November, and I was curious about what Christmas stuff will be going on already. My trip is going to be November 18th to the 23rd. I've been able to find information about Very Merry Christmas Nights, so I know that's going on. But what about other things like the Candlelight Processional, Osborne Lights, lighting of the Cinderella Castle, and other such fun things that only come around at Christmas time? I definitely like to hit as much of this as possible, as I'm a teacher, and chances to get down to Walt Disney World any other time of this other than summer vacation will be few and far between, as I'm pretty sure. So going down November 18th to the 23rd, I do know that the Osborne Lights are kind of hit or miss depending on that, but the past couple of years they've been on certainly before Thanksgiving. I know that this year and the year before that they were on earlier in November, so that shouldn't be a problem. I mean, we don't have dates yet for 2011, but the good news is that the Osborne Lights typically are on before Thanksgiving. I think when does the candlelight I know the candlelight processional is after Thanksgiving, but when does the castle lighting start typically?
I thought that started with the very first Very Merry, but I'm not sure about that, Matt.
Yeah, that might be
for that.
I think that and the Osborne Lights are the two things that really you'll start seeing before Thanksgiving. You will see holiday decorations show up a little bit, as the closer you are to Thanksgiving, the more you'll see them. So for your trip, you're definitely going to see the Christmas party. You'll probably see the Osborne Lights. You may see some decorations, but like Candlelight Processional, I'm pretty sure the first night's not until after Thanksgiving, right? It's like the last weekend in November or something like that.
I think you're right, man. I think that even last year, I don't even think they started until December 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'll see some, but not all. So not bad. Next email is from Greg McClasson, a.k.a. Greg MCG on WJD.com. Hoorah! From Tampa, Florida. I'll start off by saying that I love the show. Been listening since episode 90 something or other. That being said, I don't think I've been to Walt Disney World since I started listening. Money's always been tight, and the last several years have been a little tighter than usual, so I have to get my Disney parks fixed where I can. That's where Disney podcasts, books, and websites come in handy. I'm a well-informed non-visitor. A few months ago, I was checking out Disneyland Paris on Google Maps and I noticed that it had Street View inside the park. So, of course, I checked the other Disney parks with no such luck. But I did find that Universal Studios Orlando, Islands of Adventure, and Busch Gardens here in Tampa all have Street View inside as well. I was just wondering if any of you or any other podcast listeners out there have heard if Disney World parks will ever get the Street View inside or not. The overhead view is cool and all, but being able to virtually walk through the Magic Kingdom until I can actually get back there would be even cooler.
Don't know.
Didn't they have like a year or two ago, didn't Disney do something with Google Earth? It was, I believe it was 2008. I don't know if I'm not mistaken. I'm pulling up something real quick here. Let's see here. Google Earth. I mean, there was an article here in 2008 where it says, that says the service covers the Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, Animal Kingdom, and more than 20 Disney Resort hotels. It only features the outside of buildings, but there are plans for an update that will allow virtual visitors to enter the attractions in hotel rooms. Service is free, but users must install the Google Earth software on their computers. So I think you have to install Google Earth, which is a separate application apart from Maps. You can, of course, just go search for Google Earth, and you'll see that. And I think that's going to be what you're looking for right there.
I think you're right, Matt. And I have information on the Candlelight Processional. I have something that says usually begins the day following Thanksgiving. So it'll be that Friday after Thanksgiving that the first Candlelight Processional is traditionally beginning.
Cool. Next email is from John. I was listening to your recent listener question episode and wanted to say that returning a rental car early can cause you to have penalties. It's best to ask your rental car agency correctly to see what would happen if you returned your car early. This may vary from agency to agency.
Well, how early is early? Like a day?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I think you're right. I think if it's less than 24 hours, I think if it's more than 24 hours before your return time and day is, I think that's when it comes into play, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that, like, if like you're supposed to return it at 7 p.m. and you return it at, 5 p.m. or 3 p.m., I don't think it's an issue. I think when you start getting more than 24 hours, like you said, Mike, that becomes an issue because your rental car rate is negotiated based on the length of your rental, right? So if you're renting for 3 days, that's what it is. And if you really cut that short, you would think that wouldn't be an issue, but for whatever reason, like the mathematics and algorithms that the rental car companies use, it totally gets thrown out of whack.
Well, I think that what they do is they have so many vehicles that they can store in the garage, and they probably need to plan for when the returns are and make sure they have enough personnel on board and enough parking spaces. It could be a number of issues like that.
Yep. Next email is from Brett in New Hampshire. Cousin Mickey doesn't talk about on the boards. Cousin Mickey doesn't talk about .blogspot.com is his website. Your podcast on arrival days was great. My parents used to do what Newell does. They drag everyone out of bed at 2 a.m. to leave the house by 3 a.m. to catch the 6 a.m. flight. You then wander around the parks on the first day trying to function with only one bloodshot eye because you were not going to miss 1 minute of your time in Walt Disney World. I decided that wasn't for me. I fly down the night before and stay at an offsite hotel and then check into my Disney resort around 8:30 a.m. Some people think this is a waste of money. Those people haven't thought it through. For instance, a flight to Orlando that arrives between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. normally costs $40 to $100 per person, less than a morning flight. You can find a nice hotel near the airport for under $100 a night. 2, you beat the crowds when trying to check in. If you aim for that 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. window, it's very slow that time of day. 3, even if your room isn't ready, you can get your tickets and check your bags with the valet. 4, you have nearly a full first day in the parks. You'll normally be walking through the gate by 10 a.m. And lastly, you are nice and well rested so you can laugh at all of the frazzled parents with the kids who are melting down. You can also have a laugh at the zombies who have been up since 2 a.m.
I like getting up early.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Brett, actually. I mean, I prefer to go for that, like, to come in late at night, like 8, 9, 10 o'clock, whatever it is. So that way the next day, the day off, for instance, I'll work whatever day I come in, but that next day I get a full day in the parks. That's always been my schedule, but that's been my preference more than anything, but works for me. Let's put it that way.
There's something easier about going through security and all that nonsense at the airport earlier in the day than in the afternoon or the evening. Especially, I'm coming from New York, so coming out of LaGuardia or JFK, it's always easier to be the first flight out.
Yeah.
As far as
One thing
getting
I will say
through
about flying out, if you're doing that, if you're prescribing that theory, I think Mondays are actually a bad day to fly out in the morning because I believe a lot of business travel goes out on Monday morning. where like, you know what I mean? Like business travelers leave on Monday, and they're going to grab that first flight because they got to go out and start their week and everything. Because obviously they're not going to leave on Saturday or Sunday because
Right.
you know it's their time off. They might as well travel on
company time.
work's time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, first flight out is probably the best.
Yep. Next email. Actually, our last email today. But Mr. No, before we go to our last email today, I believe you have something to tell us.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's right. It's a 20-minute show instead of 30. I'm looking at the time like, what are you talking about? I don't know if this is going to work, but I wanted to really get your guys' opinion on something that a comment that was made in the iTunes store about our show. Okay. And I'm going to read a few, and I just wanted to touch on it and see what you guys think.
They're wrong.
Well,
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
The title of the review is Meh. So that speaks a lot. Fun and informative, but sometimes they can come off as spoiled and even a bit arrogant due to their countless visits to the upscale resorts and their endless amount of time in the parks. Their disconnect with the average family is understandable, but their expertise and knowledge is unquestionable. And I take a little bit of offense to that. And I speak for all four of us, or all five of us with Annette. It's not all the time. Going to a value resort is probably the norm for us, if not off property. So I don't think that we've kind of lost any touch when it comes to that. It's not like we're spoiled and we stay at the Polynesian every time, but I just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say I've stayed at Pop Century for 125 nights, so that pretty much that says it all. I've stayed at. I try to switch around because I think it's only fair that I experience a resort before I say anything about it, be it any type of criticism or praise. I want to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. So, I mean, last year I think I stayed at 8 or 9 different resorts, and yeah, I was down there probably more than most people. But when I was down there, I switched around, and even Len does that, and
right.
That's not an easy thing to do. It takes a part of your day, but what you want to do is you want to be able to experience the resorts from as time goes by. You need to know if they need a refurbishing and stuff, and once in a while, not often, once in a while, yeah, I'll try to stay in a deluxe, but it's a very, very rare occasion. Usually it's because I'm doing something special, like a marathon. I need to be maybe close to Epcot, so I may stay at the Beach Club or whatever. But for the most part, it's either value or moderate. And one thing that people need to know, we're not, this comes out of our pockets. So
well, that's the other thing. And for the nature of what especially Len does, and that falls on what the show overall does, is that we try to base knowledge on all the resorts on property. And Len and his crew, and we've all done it, stayed off property numerous times. I've stayed in Howard Johnson's on 192. We've all done that. It's not like, I don't want to seem like it's coming off as smug or anything like that, but we try to expand our knowledge by going to all these resorts. This way, if we do get a question about an off-property, we could say, yeah, that's good or it's bad, or even an on-property resort, yeah, that's good or bad, whether it's a value or deluxe.
I think one of the things we also try to do more than anything is we try to make sure that not only are whatever we're talking about is accurate, but we're also taking into account what our listeners think. I mean, a great example of this has always been topics like the dining plan, different changes going on in Walt Disney World. One of the things we always love is the feedback from the listeners, and I think that helps us keep us well, even keeled in the sense that we see what other people are saying, we see what our listeners are saying, and we form our own opinions, obviously, and kind of go from there. It's not like we just assume that we're the only ones who have the opinions that matter, and that's it. I mean, you'll see constantly in our shows we like to bring questions and comments from our listeners that go against what we say. I mean, a great example was Coronado Springs. If you've gotten the last, I know that I've read probably half a dozen emails lately that have criticized my comments rather about Coronado Springs, and I think it's important to be able to give both sides of the argument. And I understand that maybe we don't tour the exact way that perhaps we don't cover every potential touring possibility out there, but I think we do a pretty darn good job of covering most of it, if I can say that. Scopa?
Yeah, I agree, Matt. One more thing I want to say is that talk about being down there a lot and everything. 90%, maybe 95% of at least the trips that Mike and Len and I go on, we're there solo. We go by ourselves, and it's obviously not as expensive if you go by yourself. Paying for one airline ticket, the whole. So, the comment about being arrogant and all that stuff. I think you have to understand where we're coming from and what we try to do. And if we are to serve our audience in the best possible manner, then what we need to do is we need to try to make sure that we do experience as much as possible, so that what we say has some credence behind it and not just an opinion from some other podcast or whatever. I'm not going to mention any names, but there are going to be people out there who claim to have done this and have done that. Maybe they haven't, and maybe they have. But I can say that, everything that we say on this podcast, we've experienced firsthand.
And if you disagree with something we say, there's absolutely send us an email and let us know about it. We love to offer different opinions and read about it and discuss it. So if you've got a different viewpoint, if you think that, like that email about Cousina, if you think that Cousina is awful and we're way off base, write in and tell us that. We'd love to be able to discuss it with you, either on a listener question show or even during one of our live shows.
And for the record, the review was overall good. They gave us 5 stars, and they did really give us some nice marks. But the word spoiled and arrogant really got me. And we've been doing this going on almost 7 years, almost to 1,000 episodes. And like Mike said, for the record, we pay for our own trips. We fly down on our own dime. We stay at every resort. Any deluxe resort I ever stayed in for this show was on my own dime. And that's just how I like to think that reflects in what we do and our expansion of coverage when it comes to all the different aspects of where you can stay and what you can do while on vacation.
Very good. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Don't forget, our sponsor for today's episode is All-Star Vacation Homes. And if you're looking for a great place, if you want to feel spoiled, there's no better place than All-Star Vacations. I'll tell you that right now, because they've got some really, really nice places to stay at. And the best part about it is the price. That's right. Even I can afford it. I don't need to have Len pay for it, because that's how good of a place All-Star Vacation Homes is. They've got great rates and awesome places to stay. Check them out at allstarvacationhomes.com. If you want to find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, you can visit us online at wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, and Mike Newell, I'm Matt Hotchkiss. We'll see you on the next show.
Stupid Judy, stupid energy.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio.